Okay, so why I'm here today is a lot of people ask me, how is it that you ever became a healer? Well, it's a little bit of a story. I'd like to tell you about it right now. Because one of the really interesting things I found out is we are all healers. I wouldn't quite recommend to you what I did, but it worked. A long time ago, I thought I was going to be in the restaurant business. After all, I was Greek, and my father owned a restaurant. But I soon discovered through carpentry, working in his apartment buildings, that I really enjoyed working with my hands. And then I had the distinct pleasure of apprenticing under a master carpenter who learned his trade in a concentration camp where his level of perfection determined whether he would live or not. And this was a gift that he gave to me, was this attitude of perfection. After all, he never let me do any carpentry work because he was a perfectionist. I had to learn that on my own. But what he really left me with was that attitude. Because of that attitude, when I moved to Colorado to begin my carpentry career, I discovered very quickly that I was better than most of the tradesmen that I had met. It was within a few months that I had my own subcontracting company, and a few years after that, very short years after that, I had my own contracting company where I was building large custom homes. Everything was going beautifully. I had gotten married, I was raising two little beautiful children, and then all of a sudden the rug got pulled out. My wife was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and they had given her just 2 weeks to live. This does something to a person inside. I really was taken by this information, but I was very optimistic because I was also told I couldn't have children. And we have 2 beautiful children and 4 beautiful grandchildren now. So I really didn't take this as going to happen, but I had to deal with the reality of it. Well, after the operation, she was quite a different person, which they warned me may happen. And this person, 2 years later, decided to divorce me. I came home to an empty home. It was quite devastating. I spent the next 3 years self-medicating. I didn't know what to do. I was a macho twit contractor, and beer and cigarettes seemed to solve everything in the moment. But of course it made things a lot worse. Then my neighbor noticed I wasn't very much fun anymore. I wasn't saying hello or goodbye, and it did come to a time where I was in such a great depression that I didn't leave the house for weeks at a time, wondering why I wasn't getting any work. Well, she introduced me to an awareness group that eventually led me to my spiritual teacher. Now, it was kind of funny because I was so excited to see him after going to this awareness place, and I really began to feel some joy for the first time in a long time. I started to come home into my own self. And I dreamt the night before that I'd bumped right into him in the hallway. Well, don't you know, of course, that came true the next morning. And he grabbed both of my hands and he looked straight through me with these incredibly beautiful blue eyes, and he said, "Young man," he said, "you need to stop whatever it is you're doing and you need to get on with your healing gifts." And I gotta tell you, I thought he was off his rocker a little bit. I really didn't know about healing gifts at that time. I took his class and I floated for months. I felt so good. I took it over 20 times. He became my friend, my mentor, and my teacher for the next 27 years. He was a great man. He passed away not too long ago, helping very many people. I've traveled around the world since then, seeking out people, great masters who were doing amazing things. I'd heard about people like Sri Satya Sai Baba in India. I went to Thailand. I spent time with a great seer, and I started to see that these people had amazing gifts, and they were all teaching me, as Alexander began to teach me, that we all have this healing power within. We can all be healers. We can all heal ourselves. We need to stop looking outward, come inward, and find out the power that we truly have within. Many people have lived because of what my wife did. Now that might sound kind of funny, but actually when I finally stopped building homes and began doing healing full time, And when I told my wife that, this was 11 years later, which she had lived 11 years, then she left the next day. You see, she had accomplished her mission. She changed me from macho twit builder to intuitive healer, and among other things that she had done that were quite extraordinary, but that's another story. I would tell you all right now that you're all healers. You all can help people. You all have gifts. You just have to be quiet enough and look within, come home, and find them for yourself. If you'd like to contact me and find out more, you can reach me at greg@gregjoseph.com. Put in the subject line, yes, with an exclamation point, and you'll be contacted. Thanks a lot for listening.